Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Hey everybody, Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Thanks for joining me today on the show. Really appreciate it. Here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. You can follow me again. I'm Ray Flowers. Over at fantasyguru.com, in Discord for football and Discord for baseball, on Twitter X, on Instagram at the Ray Flowers. You can find pretty much a little bit of everything. I don't know. Sometimes I talk about my dog, my cat, sports, all that kind of stuff on social media. But I'm all business here on the show and over at the website, of course. This show is Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, starting on July 1st, we are moving the show back an hour. So instead of at 11 a.m., it'll be 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, Monday through Friday, starting on July 1st. If you want to watch the show, ask questions live while we're doing the show, facebook.com/fantasyguruhq. You can go out on Facebook and ask questions there. You can also go on the YouTube page, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can also follow us live on Twitter X, but you can't ask questions there. So both Facebook and Facebook and YouTube give you the opportunity to ask questions and have us answer them here live at the end of the show. You can always catch a show on demand later on. Type Fantasy Sports Daily into your podcast network and click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page at fantasyguru.com to find the shows cataloged there. Some exciting news today. We talk a lot of baseball on the show. We'll talk some football today. Tyler Buehler will be joining us in a bit. Here, actually, let's just throw it up on the screen real quick. Tyler Buehler will be joining us about a half hour to talk football. Thursdays are his day. We're continuing our discussion about wide receivers today. You can see we're going to talk about Puka, Nacua, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, Amon Ross St. Brown, Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, T. Higgins. A lot of big-name receivers that we're going to talk to Tyler about today in about a half an hour. We're going to have a bunch of baseball talk before that. The return of Cole, return of Bobby Miller, Bryan Woo, what's going on? Tanner Bibee dominates. Woo! Reynaldo Lopez, Tyler Anderson, Hunter Brown, Cole Ragans, Sean Manaea. And then on the offensive side, guys like Mullins, Arozarena, Adell, Swanson, Gelof, and Ty Black. And then some pitching news. Unfortunately, some bad news with guys like Bradish, Walker Buehler. Some positive news with guys like Kremer and Clayton Kershaw. So we'll get to that here in a minute. Before we get there, remember the football product is available at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get the seasonal product. It's available. You can get the wagering product for football. It's available. You can get the DFS grouping for football. All of it is available right now at the site. And really, again, encourage people because it is a terrific product. I am slightly biased because I'm part of it, but really it's great. And you see the guys on here. Armando Marcel comes on Wednesdays. Tyler Buehler today. He comes on Thursdays. Russell Clay comes on Fridays. You see them. You know them. They know what they're talking about. They do great work. Jeff Mans, Ted Schuster, all the crew over there at fantasyguru.com, including myself, contributing to football with all the rankings, dynasty, rookie, PPR, non-PPR. We talk about two quarterback leagues, super flex leagues, non-PPR leagues, IDP leagues. We cover all that. We've got podcasts over there, live streams over there, Discord over there. Get over to the website and sign up right now for the football package, at fantasyguru.com. And before we return to the baseball talk today, another note, and this one is for all of you that love baseball, which I assume is most of you, which is why you're watching this show. Look at that right there. Yeah, that's right. We got some good stuff. Let me see if I can do a better job. There we go. We've lowered our Major League prices to $99 for the rest of the season for the DFS and the wagering package. So let's say everything has gone great for you and you're rolling along. You're in first place, second place, first place, second place in your leagues. You're feeling great. Things are going good. But you want to take on another challenge. This is easy. You're really good at it. Well, we can help you at fantasyguru.com. Maybe your teams are in 10th place, in 9th place, in last place. Everyone you've drafted got hurt. You made a trade that didn't work out because that guy got hurt. And you're looking for a new challenge because you love baseball and don't want to fade away. Well, we've now discounted our products substantially. The DFS package right now is $99.99. So for the rest of the season, you get access to both cash game breakdowns and GPP breakdowns every day for the rest of the regular season over at fantasyguru.com. I was up this morning at 5 in the morning writing the cash game breakdown, which is available over at fantasyguru.com right now. I write that article 4 days a week. Ted Schuster, Scott Bonder and Chris Rose are heavily involved in the process as well. But every day we've got you covered. If you want to play the DFS game, hopefully you kick the tires if you've never done it. If you've done it, we got a good product that can help you out as well over at the website. Now, it's not just that. It's not just the DFS package. We've also got Elite Gaming available for baseball. And so that's another avenue for people to enjoy themselves. $99.99 there. You get, as you can see, there all the gaming content, the tools, the picks, the futures, 24/7 access to ask questions in Discord. And I talk about it frequently here. We hit another bet last night, the Ryan McMahon over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. That's 2 days in a row on the Elite Sports Game Time show, which is Monday through Thursday at 8 to 10 Eastern. Myself and Justin Fensterman. That's 2 days in a row where the bet of the show bet, that's the bet here in the package over at fantasyguru.com. We hit it in the first inning. Pretty cool to hit it in the first inning. But I throw bets in all the time, mostly Monday through Friday. Jeff Mans is involved. Ted Schuster's involved. The MLB model. Rob Brink is involved. I've talked to everyone, all of you, many times about the variety of bets that we often throw out there. And if you want to become part of that and make some money, $99.99 for that. So you can get the gaming package for baseball for $99.99. You can get the DFS package for baseball for $99.99 the rest of the way. It includes my work as well as the rest of the staff. And hopefully you'll take advantage of that because it's a pretty cool product over at fantasyguru.com. Okay, let's get back to baseball. All right, here we go. Let's get into it here before we talk to Tyler Beaker in about 25 or so minutes. Talk some football with those wide receivers. We had some big news yesterday in terms of the players that we're going to discuss here. Gerritt Cole returned from his injury situation, which is great news. He pitched 4 innings against the Orioles, struck out 5, walked 1, allowed 2 runs. He was effective. He threw 62 pitches. And, I think it's about what was expected of him in the outing. It wasn't great. He didn't go deep into the game. He wasn't overly effective. It was checking a box, and he checked it, which is good. His velocity was down about 1.5 miles on his fastball, so that is something to keep an eye on. All of his stuff was down about 1 mile an hour last night. So that's, again, it's his first outing back, and it's 62 pitches, and okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. I did see some reports that his release point was even more over the top than normal. I don't know if that's compensation for the arm issues he was dealing with. I don't know if that was just his body wasn't in sync, so his release point was off a little bit. We'll continue to monitor that because that'd be interesting too. Though obviously the ball changes much differently if you're 2 or 3 inches up higher here versus out of the side. So that is something that we'll keep an eye on. But again, I think overall in the case of Gerritt Cole, it was an effective outing and is effective. As I smashed my microphone, sorry about that. Is effective going to win you a league? No. Is effective good when you're Gerritt Cole and you missed all that time with injury? Yeah. So we'll watch him next time out. He faces the Mets. That's an opponent he should have success against. We'll have a much finer tooth comb, if you will, to go through that outing. A good first step last night for Gerritt Cole. Bobby Miller made his return to action as well in a tough environment in Colorado. And it was kind of like Cole. He checked the box. It was positive overall. Now, the positive news is that he hit 99 with his fastball. He averaged 97 miles an hour with it, so his arm looked live. He went 6 1/3 innings, which is pretty damn good, especially in Colorado for that first outing back. Only struck out 2 guys and gave up 5 runs. That's the negative. I think that overall, another positive effort for Bobby Miller. Desperately needed because of the injury to Walker Buehler that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Buehler being placed on the injured list. So Miller slides right into the rotation there. Next time out, he faces the White Sox, which is, let's go. It's happy time against the White Sox. We're all aware of that. It's not just the DFS space. We know that. We know that here. We made that declaration, 8-10 weeks ago here on the show. Start everyone against the White Sox. Miller looked good. His arm looked healthy, and that's the most important thing. And I really, even though the results weren't terrific, the 2 strikeouts, 5 runs, that's not very good. 6 1/3 innings in Colorado is pretty good because, it takes more time to recover in Colorado. The altitude, all that's more difficult on your body. The fact that they were comfortable enough to let him go that deep says a lot. The fact that he was able to go that deep says a lot. So I think we're in a good spot here. And, despite Walker Buehler returning and not being the guy we anticipated, I am expecting / hoping that Bobby Miller returns and is the guy we are expecting. I think that starts in his next outing against the White Sox. A good first step for him yesterday. Tanner Bibee, wow. It's just great. Terrific effort last night. Quality start, 12 strikeouts, 6 shutout innings against the Mariners. Now, the Mariners offense, it's not very good. Okay? It's not. But that doesn't mean you throw 6 shutout innings against them. And even though they strike out a lot, people aren't striking out 12 guys against them. That was a great effort by Tanner Bibee. And if you look at Tanner Bibee, his last 6 starts, this is really cooking with gas, as the kids say, which they don't say because kids just burn things with matches. But you know what I'm saying. Tanner Bibee's last 6 starts has got 52 strikeouts in 35 innings. And that's wow time. Like, that's damn impressive work. He's got a 2.78 ERA and a 0.90 whip in that time as well. So Tanner Bibee is not just pitching well, he is locked in and he's got elite numbers. Like, this is Jacob deGrom stuff. This is Max Scherzer when he's healthy stuff, right? This is elite level. This is Spencer Strider when he's on the mound, which he's not, of course. But you know what I'm saying? Zack Wheeler, like, this is elite level production for Tanner Bibee. And while we can't expect this level to continue, it is interesting to note that about a month and a half ago, right when this run started of him with the dominance for the Guardians, he actually lowered. We're just talking about Gerritt Cole and his release point, right? Bibee's arm slot lowered. And sometimes when that happens, it's a one-off, right? We were talking about with Cole. If it goes up or down, it's a one-off. Maybe there's an injury. Maybe it's a mechanical thing. Maybe it's on purpose because we're looking to change up the movement of our pitches, the release point, all that kind of stuff. Bibee lowered his arm slot and at the same time added a little bit of velocity. So generally speaking, when you're over the top, right, you're on this plane, up-down plane, right? Generally speaking, over the top is more up in the zone, down in the zone, that kind of movement, right? When you drop your arm more to the side, you start getting left to right movement, generally. Again, this is not 100%. This is just, we're talking general terms here. So if you lower your arm slot a little bit, which you can't see because I'm off the screen. If you lower your arm slot a little bit, and then you add velocity, that ball really starts to move. And it seems like a plan for Bibee, and it's working. He's also changed up his breaking ball. It's starting to look more sweeper-like. So he, again, is playing off. So he's lowering his arm slot. He's adding velocity. And he's going more left to right with his pitches, and it's working. And so he's in a nice groove right now. He had a very impressive first season last year for the Guardians. I've been a big fan of him since last year, and that continues right now. I love the adjustment he's making here, and the results are following along. Looking pretty special right now for the Guardians. Bryan Woo, we've talked about him a lot. Breakout pitcher of the year for me. Most of the time when he's been on the hill, he's been fantastic. Last night he wasn't. He gave up 3 runs in 4 innings. He only walked 1 guy, but only struck out 1. He needed 62 pitches. It was just there. Now, it was his first outing in 13 days. It was coming back from the scare with his arm, with the MRI and all that. Okay. 30 pitches in the first inning, put him behind the 8 ball. He only needed 32 to get through his next 3. Okay. So it was just, and you look at this, Guardians batters last night fouled off 22 of his 64 pitches, which is a ton. For most pitchers that have had the success he's had this season, an effort like yesterday, who cares? It's a bad effort. You didn't have it. Okay. I'm more willing than not to say that exact thing here in the case of Bryan Woo, but right, we all know this. Is this a sign that his arm, again, I can't imagine, and I said this when his latest hiccup happened physically, I can't imagine that the Mariners will let him continue to pitch if they really have a concern, because there's so many red flags all over the place with him. That if they thought there was a problem, they would shut him down. They're not shutting him down. So there's nothing, So Woo obviously is not going to post a 1.1 ERA. All right. I don't think he's going to go out and pitch like he did yesterday either. I think the truth is obviously in the middle somewhere. I'm willing to say, just forget yesterday. Let's just, it was one of those games. Fine. It was a long layoff. We talked about the first inning. He couldn't get things going at the start of the game. Things kind of snowballed, got away from him a little bit. Let's see how he looks the next time out. First really terrible, not even terrible, first poor outing this year for a guy that's been terrific around all the craziness that he has dealt with. Now, here's a guy that, Reynaldo Lopez, Reynaldo Lopez is someone that I said, look, he's going to the Braves. He's got a nice arm. I think he can be effective. I'm not telling you to draft Reynaldo Lopez. I don't know how many innings he's going to throw going back to the rotation. I'm not even sure that this return to the rotation with him is going to stick. So I definitely was not in the draft Reynaldo Lopez late camp. Not at all. And that has been the absolute wrong decision to this point because he's 5-2 with a 1.57 ERA. And he has been another one of these pitchers that seemingly out of nowhere has become a star in the fantasy game. Now, he was really good Not really good. He was very effective years ago as a starting pitcher, but he's made 13 starts right now, which is his most starts since 2019. All right, we're not even halfway through the year, so he's already done that. He's got a strikeout an inning, which is not surprising given his arm. Interesting piece for me is the walk rate being below the league average in his return to the rotation. I didn't really expect that to happen, so that I'm impressed by that. Now, an 87% left on base percentage, no chance, none, zero, not happening. If he throws 150 innings, not happening. Everything stays the same. The ERA is going to go up, and I think we all know that. Now, the real concern with, and we've seen this with other pitchers too, the real concern is that his 1.6 ERA, his expected ERA is 3.8. His SIERA is 3.6. His xFIP is 3.5. All those three significant measures, taking into account the totality of what he's done this year, the things he's more directly in control of this year, all suggest that his ERA should be at least double what it is right now. And that's a little scary, right? Again, he has been terrific. I think at this point we're roll tide. We're just letting it happen here. Understand that his home run to fly ball ratio is also 5%. That number is going to explode. Its career numbers double that, which is still just a league average mark. So that's not anything to get excited about, but it's going to double where it's at now. There's just regression coming, and there's a twofold piece. There's regression coming, and there's the fact that right now he's thrown a 5-year high of big league innings already. So we're likely to see some skip starts. We might see some short starts. We're almost certain, if not, let's say remove almost. We're certain to see regression in terms of the ratios, but he's been great. So if that happens, if he turns into a pumpkin the rest of the way, he's still got 13 starts at him. That's terrific. So great. I'm calling it a win for him no matter what happens. But I am concerned that he's just going to be league average the rest of the way with a potential innings limit at some point. Tyler Anderson, the next guy up. Tyler Anderson I don't even know if he's league average, to be fair. He was really good 2 years ago. He was really bad last year. He's really good again this year. And, he's been around forever. He's a mix and match guy. He's, throwing 4 pitches up there. He's locating things. He doesn't stuff anyone at all in the sense of he's pitching and moving in strike zone and game planning. He's not throwing 97 and blowing you away. It just doesn't happen. Another game last night, 1 run allowed in 7 innings against the Brewers. He got the loss, but he pitched great. Freddie Peralta was a steamroller last night. Anderson and I've talked about him. I'm starting him every time out. It's either Labor or Tout Wars. I forget offhand. Labor or the FSGA League. I think it's Labor because my pitching is just a mess, and I'm not comfortable with it. And you shouldn't be comfortable with it. The interesting thing is that we're 94 innings into this thing or whatever the hell we're into with him. How many innings did he throw? 84 innings. Let's look it up. I'll make sure I'm speaking properly. I think I wrote 94 down, but that doesn't sound right. Yeah, it is 94. I am right. 94 innings and 15 starts, and his ratios are spectacular, but his strikeout to walk ratio is 1.5. Yeah. And again, he's not a strikeout guy, so that's going to be a problem. And really, he's continuing the walk. We talked about him having success 2 years ago. His walk rate 2 years ago was half of what it is right now. So the bottom line is we are playing with fire with Tyler Anderson. He continues to make it work. He's throwing fewer cutters than he did last year, and he's elevating the pitch when he does throw it. That's about the only significant difference from last year when he got blasted. But remember, he was fortunate in 2022. The truth is he's a league average pitcher who's pitching better than that. Be cautious with Tyler Anderson. Does face the Athletics next time out. That's a start we can use him in. Hunter Brown continues to get it done. Held the White Sox to 1 run over 6 innings with 6 strikeouts, and now we're getting to the serious point. It's amazing. He was so bad at the start that Hunter Brown's got a 4.7 ERA and a 1.4 WHIP right now, which are just terrible numbers, right? They're not even league average. There, you would see that on the waiver wire, and you would just look past them. You wouldn't even consider him. His last 6 starts, his ERA is 1.7 and his WHIP is 0.9. And again, that shows you how bad he was at the start. But he's made those adjustments. He is cruising along right now, 41 strikeouts in the 37 innings. Remember, and we've talked about him a lot. Remember, he was in the Breakout Pitcher of the Year article this year. He was one of the finalists for the award. Started horribly wrong. It's gotten hella good of late. He's going 6 innings every time out. He's throwing a quality start every time out. This is the guy that was profiled at the start of March or late February, whenever the article came out, and not the guy we saw in April. So someone was asking me today, he's on the waiver wire. If he's on the waiver wire in your league, add him. He should not be on the waiver wire at this point in time. Hunter Brown is back to being Hunter Brown. The next guy up on the list to discuss is Cole Ragans, who allowed 2 runs over 6 innings last night against the Athletics. He picked up the loss, 7 strikeouts for him. He's been great. And, I liked him coming into the year, but being honest with everyone, I did not like him as much as the rest of everyone did. There's a player profile of him giving my thoughts. To date, he's got 109 strikeouts in 92 innings. He's got a 1.15 whip and a 3.13 RA in a eerily reminiscent Robbie Ray good season. I think that's pretty good. I just made that up on the spot. Ragans has been really, really effective. Now, I say this to people, and Ray broken record. Maybe. We're not even halfway through the year. Okay, just like Hunter Brown was atrocious, and now he's fantastic. Things happen over the course of 30 starts, right? Right now, over his first 16 starts, Cole Ragans has been fantastic. Period. It's also half a season. It's also to the point where he's only 4 innings away from the number he hit last year with the Royals. And we're starting to get into the zone, and this is detailed extensively in his player profile. He's got health concerns because he's dealt with multiple arm injuries. He did not throw an official pitch in 2018, did not throw an official pitch in 2019, did not throw an official pitch in 2020. He's had a lot of issues with his arm. So multiple surgeries, all that kind of stuff. Right now, you're doing nothing but rolling with him. Just, he's 4-5, which is disappointing. He could be, 8-2 or something like that with the way he's pitched. He is 4-5, but overall, it's a success to this point, and we'll see if the second half can match the dominant first half for him. All right, let's go on to this next one here. I'm sorry, I was doing something there. I'm a little tired, and normally I say I'm tired because I get up in the morning. As I noted, I was up at 5 a.m. today writing the cash game breakdown. I'm just a little. I need a vacation. I'm not going to get one, by the way. For those people that like Ray Flowers and you want more Ray Flowers, next week Jeff Mann's going to be on vacation. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, not just Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be on the Elite Sports Show, which is 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM. Jeff will be away. On Monday, Justin Fensterman and I will co-host the show. On Tuesday and Wednesday, I will host solo. Next week is also, just to put it out there, the Game Time show that's Monday through Thursday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 10. Next week is the last week of that. They're changing the programming up, scheduling up after the July 4th holiday. So next week is a lot of talking for Ray. I got 9 hours on. Let's do it right there. I got 9 hours on that show. I got 5 hours with you all here. I've got 4, 8, so 8 hours there. So that's 22 hours of talking next week. There is a caveat with that. I might get crazy and take a day off on July 5th. Maybe. I was talking about it yesterday with Jeff Mans. We're trying to figure it out. Do I still do the show on July 5th or do I just take an actual day off? We'll figure it out. I'll let you all know next week. But lots of talking next week for those of you that, again, enjoy my talking. Manaea last night had a no-hitter through 5 innings. In the end, he allowed 3 runs over 5 2/3 innings. Still a solid outing. But, again, there's no-hitter through 5 innings. He had walked 3 guys, had hit a batter, had allowed a run. It's one of those wild games where he really couldn't control the strike zone, but somehow was getting outs and not allowing base hits. And this is kind of what he is, right? It's like he's a guy that goes out there, he's not going to hurt you. He's not necessarily going to help you. In 11 of his 14 outings this year, Manaea has not gone 6 innings. So he's really a 5-inning guy. So the victories are always, kind of up in the air. The Mets haven't been great offensively to support him there. Manaea's okay, right? And again, I think last night's an example of that. He retired 14 guys at one period of time. In the end, he didn't make it through 6 innings and gave up 3 runs. It was a solid effort, gave his team a chance to win the game and all that. But he's difficult to trust because of the lack of depth in the fantasy game. All right, let's talk about some offensive players. And I just want to give a shout out to 2 guys in particular, Cedric Mullins and Randy Arozarena. Guys that are this year have woefully missed. Now we're halfway through the year. There's still a chance, but they've woefully missed. Last night, Cedric Mullins went 2 for 5 with an RBI. He scored a couple runs. He stole 2 bases. That ain't bad. That's a really good effort for Cedric Mullins. Well, Ray, is that a one-off? The last 12 games, he scored 8 runs and stolen 3 bases. Okay, that works. The last 6 games, he scored 5 runs and hit 300. Okay, so a little bit, not a lot, not up to expectations. But let's not forget that he's got 6 home runs and 15 steals. He is on pace to go 15-30. He's hitting 191, so let's not get crazy. But he's still got the power. 15 to 20 is where we should have been there. The steals 30-35. That's basically where he's at. So I'm heartened by the last week. He looks like he's taking some good at bats. He's producing as well. So put him on the watch list. If you're not going to add him off the waiver wire, if he's out there, at least put him on the watch list because I think he's someone that's coming around. Randy Arozarena, I have him everywhere. You have him everywhere because of me. I'm sorry. But like I said, there's still time for him to still go 20-20 this year. Last night he had a single. He had a double. He had a walk. He was hit by a pitch. He scored a run. And oh, by the way, he stole 2 bases. And this is really starting to get interesting with him because of the fact that, he is a home run and RBI, a home run and steal guy. And now he's starting to get on base. If you look at him the last 5 games, he's got a 571 on base percentage the last 5 games. That'll play. If you look at his performance in a little bit of a deeper level, if you look at the last 12 games, the last 2 weeks, 2 home runs, 2 steals, 5 runs, 6 RBIs, hitting 278 with an 881 OPS. Guess what? The last 2 weeks, he's been Randy Arozarena. That's great. If he just keeps doing that the rest of the way, we're golden, baby. So 2 guys that, again, recapping, terrible, looking to find it, starting to find it. In the case of Arozarena, I feel even better about it than I do with Cedric Mullins. Check the waiver wire. I don't think they should be out there right now. Joe Adell, someone asked me again this morning, hey, should Joe Adell be dropped? Yeah, we've talked about Joe Adell here on the show. He didn't play yesterday, wasn't in the starting lineup. He's hitting 118 over his last 57 plate appearances. 118. 193 on base percentage, 196 slugging percentage. He has been awful. And all of the good, and there was a lot of it at the start, right? We got excited at one point in time. He had a good 3 weeks there. All the good is gone. I'll just be blunt. It's gone. Yeah, he's on pace to go about 20-20, which is terrific. And that would be a huge win for him. But he's hitting 186. And while his numbers are similar-ish to Randy Arozarena, he doesn't have Arozarena's track record. He's not as consistent as Arozarena. He's not as talented, if you ask me, either. He's certainly not as refined. And for all the improvements he made in the contact rates and everything like that with Adell, his strikeout rate is up to 31%, now 32% right now because of all the strikeouts that have happened of late. He's just a mess. And I've said it all along. Still an uber talent. He's still 25, right? Yeah, he's 25 years old. Still. He needs to be traded. He needs to have someone else talking to him. He needs to have someone mechanically working with him. He just needs a new voice because whatever the Angels have been telling him, it's just not. He is like many guys, like Will Benson's another one of these guys. The pieces are there for an all-star, but putting it together has just not been something that they've been able to do with Joe Adell. Dansby Swanson, who decided to, find his stroke against the Giants. I was watching the game this morning while I was doing the cash game breakdown. As he's blasting balls into the fence in right field. He's hitting line drives up the middle. He's all of a sudden looking really good. He's found his stroke, it appears, against the Giants. A note that I said the home run was to right center field. The double or the base hit up the middle was just to the right of center field. And when you start seeing a guy like Dansby Swanson starting to drive the ball to the opposite field, you're in a good spot with him. He's homered in back-to-back games now, which is great news for him. The swing, again, from watching him, he's found his stroke, I think, after having it be MIA for virtually the entire season this year. Swanson is very likely on the waiver wire in your league, right? Unless you're in a very deep league. So if he's there, I think he's a really solid addition right now to pick him up, to use him in that middle infield spot, because again, eyeballing him, he's taking good swings, and that's half the battle, right? Or something like that, G.I. Joe. A couple more players to get to before we turn things over to Tyler Beaker. Number 1, Zack Gelof went 1 for 4 with the home run yesterday. Just wanted to throw this out there with him. As bad as he has been, he's on a 15-15 pace. Okay. He's another one of these guys hitting in the 190s, 250 on base percentage, 350 slugging. We have to put out of our mind what he did last year, as I tried to encourage people to do at the start of this season as well, because he wasn't going to be that guy over the full season. Didn't anticipate it being this bad. There have been ups and downs with him, and every time there's a positive, we seemingly get a negative. So this is more of just a reminder that Gelof is out there. He does have some power, does have some speed. He's going to play every day for the Athletics. It's not a must add like some of these other guys have been. Like I was just talking about, let's add Dansby Swanson. Let's add Cedric Mullins. Let's add Arozarena. Let's put Gelof on the watch list and see how things go with him. And then finally, I'll come back to the injured stuff after we talk to Tyler. Finally, the Brewers called up Tyler Black. Oliver Dunn was sent to AAA. We've talked about Black a lot. I've got him in my keeper league. I've got him in my dynasty league. He's a guy that can hit 15 home runs at the big league level and still 30 bases. And I think he's going to get a chance to play now. He's probably on waiver wires everywhere, even in deeper leagues. And that's something you should strongly consider changing because he has not game-changing skills or game-changing speed, but might qualify 2 positions in your setup. Again, I'm anticipating the Brewers letting him go. They're trying to figure all this out with their youngsters, Sal Frelick, Gerritt Mitchell, all these kind of guys. I think that Tyler Black is going to play a lot in the infield. He is someone who has done very well in the minor leagues, struggled a little bit in 2 weeks of time earlier on with the Brewers. But I think now is his time to play every day. And the skills, again, are ones that are allowed from a fantasy perspective. We'll go back to those injuries here in a bit. We'll get those in your comments and questions here on the show. But now it's time to talk football. Wednesdays, we talk to Armando Marsal. Fridays, we talk with Russell Clay, so he'll be on tomorrow. And Thursdays for the preview of Tyler Beaker. So let's welcome Tyler in today. Tyler, how you doing today? Let me get you the right size. There you go. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Excited to talk some football with you, Ray. How are you doing?
I'm good. Is that like a tiki hat with like palm trees or something?
Yeah, little flamingos.
Yeah. Yep. Where's that from?
From my wife. We somehow have. So a long story. My parents' friends used to really hate the tacky lawn ornaments, the flamingos.
Okay.
And they left for vacation. My parents decided to surprise their house and sprinkle their front yard with flamingos. So it's just been a running joke for like 30 plus years with that whole group.
I actually have a video somewhere. I should probably post it. My neighbors and I one night recorded ourselves flamingoing a house. So nice. We ran down the street in the dark and stuck like 3 flamingos in these people's yard and they were like in their 40s too. I'm like doing stupid things like that my whole life. It was like the craziest thing they've ever done. I was like, so we ordered them. It took like 10 days and then we flamingoed a house. So yeah, I get that. It's fun. I like it.
We got one outside our house now. Yep.
Oh, do you? How big?
Just for
like
fun.
This or like full size?
So we did a flamingo party last year, and somebody decided to bring a massive one, and that's somehow become our lawn ornament. So we are those people on the block.
That's right. I've got the gnomes in my yard, so you're fine.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. Obviously, everybody, you can find Tyler's work at fantasyguru.com. Let me ask you, start draft book. That's something you're doing this year. When does your first version of that get released?
That's a great question. I do not know off the top of my head. Okay. It's June 20th right now. I imagine it'll be out before August 1st.
Okay. And for those people that, you have it for baseball, if you have the product at fantasyguru.com, it's basically a combination of rankings with auction values kind of thing. Have you decided what version you're going to do this year? Has that determination been made yet, Tyler?
No, we have not done that yet internally, but we will be mixing up the different formats. One of us will be doing a Superflex format with auction values for that. One of us will be doing a PPR. One will do a half PPR. One will do tight end premium. We'll be mixing and matching. So we're hoping to cover as many bases as possible with those auction books.
Absolutely. And you can follow Tyler on Twitter X at Tyler Beaker. That's TYLER BUECHER. You can follow him over there. You can follow him over at the site. He's always answering questions in Discord. Before we get to the wide receiver talk, Tyler, what have you released thus far? I'm asking you all these questions. Well, it'll be out next week. What have you released so far besides the best ball package is all available? I know that was a big thing you talked about last time you were on.
Correct. The best ball package has been launched. We have rankings. We've got strategy conversations. We've got all kinds of different historical data in terms of ideal roster construction to utilize. A lot of great info in there. Just added another article on Tuesday on late round best ball targets. We're at the point of the offseason where right now we don't want to get too into the weeds in terms of selecting round 18 plus, round 20 plus selections, because there are times where those can be a zero. There's a chance that some of these guys are just not going to be worth rostering, and we'll want to make those wild swings closer to the actual season starting because we'll have more information coming out of training camp, coming out of preseason. So that's kind of what we want to wait for. Right now, we just want to be kind of smart and cognizant of the types of late round selections we're making. So I went through about maybe 15 or so different players that kind of fit that mold, and then a few deeper shots as well.
Well, we're going to go the other end with our discussion today. We're going to talk more about the high-end guys because we're using the show here this week, the last couple of weeks, next week. It's kind of an intro to the season and hopefully an intro to the package. Again, you can go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab at the top right. You see it there on the bottom of the screen as well. No need for a promo code. It's already been early bird discounted. Just sign up. You're ready to rock and roll for the entire season with us. Let's talk wide receivers. And I think one of the bigger names, obviously, in terms of expectations this year after a massive season last year is Puka Nacua of the Rams. He's being drafted as a wide receiver 1. I know Jeff Mans has talked a lot about this. If Cooper Kupp plays 15, 16 games, like, are we overdrafting Puka? Your thoughts on the 1/2 receiver of the Rams, depending upon the health of Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, it's a great question because Puka's coming off the best rookie season ever recorded, most receptions, most receiving yards, right in the mix for offensive rookie of the year. And rightfully, people are excited about him. He's going off the board right now as a top 10 pick in most underdog and drafters best ball drafts right now. Excluding week 18, Nacua played in 5 games without Kupp, 11.8 targets per game, over a 30% target share, elite production. But upon Kupp's return, that only dipped to 8.5 targets per game and a 29% target share. Like, this was still a heavy volume that Nacua was seeing. Fewer than 10 receivers have cleared this 30% target share last season. Only 4 did it the year prior. So, like, that's a huge mark to get. And for him to have a 29% share alongside Kupp, I still think that points toward Nacua not being a total bust at that round 1-2 turn. So, yes, a healthy Kupp will eat into some of Nacua's opportunities. But he showed us that even while playing alongside Kupp, he was the wide receiver 12 from weeks 5 through 17 playing together. So there's still a lot of production there, and for him to have a good fantasy season. So, like, that's kind of our expectation. Like, wide receiver 12, I think, is kind of what we can expect without seeing a step forward from him. Stafford staying healthy, and with the assumption that Kupp stays healthy as well. I'm personally a little bit lower than the number 9 spot where we're seeing him go on drafters and underdog, preferring to target A.J. Brown and Gerritt. A.J. Brown due to higher touchdown upside, Garrett Wilson due to less competition and targets. And I can even make the argument for Jahmyr Gibbs over him on underdog, where it's half EPR and due to the importance of touchdowns in that format. So I'm kind of like, I'm okay with the selection at the turn, but I'm not prioritizing it. As far as Cooper Kupp himself, he played in 10 full games with Puka, averaging 8.7 targets per game, 15.4 fantasy points per game during that span. If we exclude that first game that he came back, Kupp either had 100+ yards, reached the end zone, or had 10+ targets in 8 of the 9 games. So Kupp fell off last year. Yes, some of that was due to injury, so that's getting older. We have to keep in mind that he entered the league at his age 24 season. He's entering his age 31 season. I mean, while his yards per route run dipped last year, I still think there's a lot of meat on the bone at Kupp, who's a great selection to me in that round 3 range.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Okay, you mentioned A.J. Brown. Well, and how you prefer him to Puka Nacua as an example. Would you prefer him to Amon-Ra St. Brown? ADP has him pretty close. I think St. Brown's going ahead of A.J. most of the time. Let's assume a PPR setup here, Tyler. Which one of the Browns would you prefer and why?
Great question. A.J. Brown is an explosive, big play threat for Philadelphia, but last year was the first time we saw him clear 90+ receptions in a season. And in a full PPR format, that is something that I'm kind of gravitating toward, making Amon-Ra my preference. Amon-Ra has cleared 90 in all 3 seasons he's played. He has the 3rd most receptions ever recorded through a player's first 3 years in NFL history. And last year we saw St. Brown bridge that gap in terms of the touchdown vacancy that he really wasn't scoring. Last year he had double-digit touchdowns, 10 last year. I think that's super notable given that they also added Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs that season. St. Brown was heavily banked on in the red zone. He was top 5 in both red zone targets, that's targets inside the 20, and he was top 5 in green zone targets inside the 10-yard line. So even with those additions of Laporta and Gibbs, St. Brown still has a lot of upside from both a pass catching in terms of like the receptions and the touchdown angle as well. It's a close one for sure, and that's reflected in their ADP. These guys are separated by like 3 picks in most drafts. St. Brown, though, has beat A.J. Brown in most games of 15+ PPR points over the last 2 years combined. He's also number 1 in the most games of 6+ receptions over the last 2 years combined, hitting that mark in 25 of 32 games. So there's like a high floor that I think Amon-Ra St. Brown provides, that A.J. Brown is more of the touchdown chasing angle where you prefer him in a half PPR format where it's a lot closer in terms of the gap between the two.
Let's shift things over to the Niners and kind of do another either or at least a descriptive situation with their top 2 wide receivers. You've got Deebo Samuel, you've got Brandon Aiyuk. Aiyuk is doing whatever he can publicly to get a new contract, right? He's talking trash on podcasts and the team doesn't want me and all this kind of stuff. I always get a little nervous because it seems like the wide receivers in particular, I know that's not true, but it seems like that's the case with these guys. They get a little ahead of themselves and want to get paid. People in the fantasy space, are they ahead of themselves with Brandon Aiyuk? Because I look at this, Tyler, and I want to hear your thoughts. I look at this and, there's nowhere to me, Aiyuk is a floor guy. The only way he becomes a ceiling play is if Deebo Samuel misses 10 games. Like, Deebo's been in and out of the lineup. He's dealt with injuries. Aiyuk produces good numbers, but can he live up to his current ADP with Deebo on the field, or even if Deebo isn't on the field?
So Aiyuk's a really talented player. For my money, he's one of the best route runners in the league right now. And for weeks 1 through 17, he was wide receiver 12 on a per game basis, averaging 16.2 fantasy points per game. He's also the Niners' big play receiver in terms of ADOT, average depth of target, yards per reception, first down per route run, gains of 20 plus yards. So I'm really in the best ball mindset right now. So I'm kind of going to cater this conversation towards that. We should be hunting for spike weeks like that. Like, that's what Aiyuk provides. And Kyle Shanahan's offense means less dependable volume on a week-to-week level, given the number of targets that he's contending with in terms of contending pass catchers. But when Aiyuk gets his number called, he's usually producing big plays. So for that, it's kind of why I'm like leaning on Aiyuk as the guy that I would target in a vacuum. Deebo's style is also kind of one of one. Like, you can't really compare him against other receivers. Right. We don't see many wideouts that are capable of 40 plus carries in a season. And Deebo himself, he's not bulletproof in this regard. Like, as you mentioned, there was some time he missed last year. He missed multiple games with a hairline fracture in his shoulder. He missed some time during the Super Bowl with a hamstring injury. He's not bulletproof. And his manufactured touches, rushing and receiving, they are generally elevated by his yards after catch or yards after contact, missed tackles forced. These are statistics that don't generally translate well into predicting future success. That isn't to say that Deebo can't have big fantasy days. Like, he and Aiyuk are both tied in total games of 15 plus PPR points over the last 2 years since Purdy took over. With Deebo having the slight edge in games of 25 plus, those spike weeks, 4 to 3. So minimal. I'm not fading Deebo, but right. I'm letting my round one decisions dictate which one I choose.
Okay.
Excuse me. If I go for a wide receiver one in round one with a little bit more volatility, like Justin Jefferson playing with a rookie quarterback, Deebo's floor makes more sense to me because we're getting a rock solid floor week after week. Adversely, a high floor wide receiver one like Amon St. Brown, which we just talked about, makes me lead to Aiyuk, where I can accept that variability that comes with Aiyuk's games, where maybe one game he's going for 20 plus, the other maybe 10. I'm much more apt to that knowing that I've got a wide receiver one that's consistently banking big weeks. So I think both are fine selections at their ADP. The 49ers are an offense that we want to invest in. They're a team that, like, top 5 across the board in almost every advanced metric. You really can't go wrong with either one to me. It's just really depending on the composition of your round one selections and how you want to construct your team.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Let's shift things over to a pair of receivers with the Texans, Tyler. It seems like everyone says it's Nico Collins. They're taking Nico Collins ahead of Stefon Diggs, and that seems to be ADP. That seems to be what people are feeling. I know Jeff Mans has been very vocal about the fact that I agree with him completely. If Stefon Diggs is on pace to catch 72 passes with 6 targets a week, he's blowing this team up. He basically blew up his spot in Buffalo after averaging 150 targets and 100 catches, right? Like, he ain't accepting 4 catches a week. That's kind of my thought here. So what do you think? Are people making a mistake taking Collins ahead of Diggs? And what is your expectation for both those receivers catching passes from CJ Stroud this year?
That's a great question because there's a lot of parts here that make this a tough one to project, because we have Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, we've got Tank Dell, we've got Noah Brown, we've got John Mechie, we've got all kinds of different wideouts that could mix into this rotation and make this a bit of a crowded wide receiver group. We talked 2 weeks ago about CJ Stroud's outlook and the possibility of him taking a step forward. And my inclination, and I think you kind of agreed, was that it'd be tough for Stroud to improve upon his numbers without some drastic change in play calling. Like, he was hyper efficient last year. Maybe we see an improved ground game, extend drives, and we get to see more drives and in touchdowns. Perhaps that's a way that we see both Diggs and Nico pay off ADP, but I'm kind of bearish on Diggs right now. Like, last year we saw 2 versions of Diggs. Weeks 1 through 9, 21.7 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 4. Weeks 10 through 18, 9.8 fantasy points per game. He was wide receiver 45 on a per game basis. The offensive coordinator change definitely played a factor there as well, but Diggs is entering his age 31 season. we're likely to see his production this year fall somewhere in the middle between those two spectrums from last season. He's wide receiver 22 in current ADP. I just feel like that's buying him at a ceiling. And when investing in Houston stacks or best ball, you can take those swings. But in redraft, I'm probably going to be looking elsewhere than Diggs out of that round 3 spot. And then Nico, like, he was such a beast last year. Top 12 in yards per out run, first downs per out run, receptions per game, or receiving yards per game. He was hyper effective, especially on the perimeter. 3.83 yards per out run against single coverage. Thought that was a tremendous mark. I think he could be in line for like an Aiyuk type role. Speaking of Aiyuk, where the volume may not be consistent on a week-to-week level, but he's still producing big plays every time he gets the opportunity. So I'm kind of mixing him in when he falls past his current ADP. He's wide receiver 14 on Underdog right now, mid-round tail.
Yep.
I admit others are more bullish on Nico than me, but if I can get him closer to the 2-3 turn, I'll be clicking his name there.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. The interesting, we were just talking about the Texans, and at one point last year, Robert Woods had a week last year for them too. Like there was like 5 different guys that had nice weeks at one point, right? And we had a kind of similar situation with the Packers. It's like sometimes there was a Packer receiver going 450 and a touchdown. It's like, who the hell is this guy? Like we haven't even been talking about him, and here it is. Here we are. We've got Jordan Love. We got an offense that works. We got an offense that moves the football, scores points. We got all these weapons at the wide receiver position. Reed, Dubs, and Watson are the top 3 guys, I think. Talk to us about this core and what your expectations are, because it was a frustrating scenario, especially down the stretch last year with the Packers, where everyone was involved, but it was tough to find kind of the guy. Do you see that being the case again in 2024?
I kind of do. Like, this is a receiving core that has a chance to be an absolute nightmare for fantasy. Last year, the Packers had a different leading receiver every month. And some of that was due to injuries. Like, that struck the entire group at various times. Christian Watson has serious hamstring injuries that could greatly impact his future as well. Well, you can't forget that the Watson's rookie season that was absolutely spectacular in terms of like a yards per out run rate and first down per out rate. If he can return anything close to that, he'll be a steal at ADP. Jaden Reed exploded late last season, but he scored 7 of 10 touchdowns week 10 or later. So he's really just down the stretch kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Bona fide red zone threat, though. But we also know touchdowns are really unpredictable year to year. Wicks, he's kind of getting steamed up. I see a lot of conversation about him in best ball circles, partly due to ADP, partly due to his advanced stats as well as a rookie, looking better than JSN in some stats. But he really only thrived once all those injuries started piling up. To me, Romeo Doubs is kind of the guy that stands out as just being a jag, just a guy. He's my fade of the group because he really doesn't shine from any advanced stats that point toward him being the guy for the future. And so I'm really just kind of being selective with these wideouts and not really going overboard in terms of exposure, because it kind of reminds me of like the old Patriots where we knew Brady was going to be an effective passer, but week to week, his top weapon could vary. And in those situations back in those years, we were simply just investing in Brady. We weren't really trying to chase the wideouts because it felt like chasing our tail to a certain degree. And I think that certainly could have unfolded here with the Packers as well. So I'm going to be sprinkling exposure to Watson, Reed, and Wicks. And with Wicks being the cheapest of the bunch, he's the only player I imagine I'll be above market in terms of exposure due to the price and the upside. But it's a really tough question to enter the year for sure.
Well, you did a great job breaking down that tough question. So final tough question for you that I don't anticipate you having an answer to because I don't know there is one. So I'm going to ask your best guess really with this one. Rashee Rice, like I feel like everyone that I've had all of you guys come on, I've asked all of you, what are we doing with Rashee Rice? I mean, Jeff Mans and I were talking about this yesterday on the Elite Sports Show 3 to 6 Monday through Friday on Sirius XM. You know, there's a chance that Rashee Rice is suspended at the start of the season. There's a chance he's suspended in the middle. There's a chance he's suspended at the end. There's a chance he isn't suspended this year. There's all these options here with him. And Jeff is kind of the opinion I'm taking him at the current cost because I think when he's out there, he's going to be a banger in this offense with the Chiefs. What are your thoughts? How about best ball and seasonal? How are you handling Rashee Rice as of right now? Obviously pending a change depending upon what we hear.
I'm buying all the Rice I can right now in best ball because his price, he's 75 overall in ADP on Underdog. That bakes in the suspension to me extremely well. Like, what if it's just a few games and it's not like a 4 to 6 range? Mm-hmm. He showed tremendous rapport with Mahomes last year, showing up well in multiple advanced stats. Yak per reception, first downs per out run, yards per out run. I'm in on this discount here because he's coming in so much cheaper than guys like Worthy and Marquise Brown. If we didn't have a suspension at all, I imagine Rice's ADP would be far closer to Travis Kelce as like a round 3 selection, right? Given what we saw last season. So I'm buying right now in best ball. I think he's a phenomenal purchase at that 75 ADP where you can get him as your wide receiver 4 or 5. where you're not really banking on him to start the year. But I'm specifically only targeting him on underdog, where we want those late round buckets where we advance like from a small pod from week to week, weeks 15, 16, 17 to get into that final group of 539, I believe is the final number. I'd rather target him there where I know those weeks are more important. And if he were to be suspended, I imagine it'd be sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. So like more than likely than not, we're probably going to see the opening month of September where that suspension unfolds. In redraft, I think you can make that similar approach if you start with a wide receiver heavy grouping where you're not banking on him to produce early in the year, but you have a high upside bench stash right there in a guy that was super productive as a rookie. All formats, I think he's approachable now. I'm just kind of not really interested in him on drafters where it's like that week 1 through 17 sprint where every single week matters. You want points every single week. For that reason, I'm strictly targeting him an underdog due to that buckets and the advanced grouping that I talked about.
Tyler hitting there, one of the big keys that we always stress that some people forget to pay attention to: know your league setup, know the scoring system, know the way the playoffs work, all that kind of stuff, because it can, as he just laid out, significantly change a valuable player that you think, oh yeah, I'm all in on. Make sure it works with your setup, your format, 2 receivers, 3 PPR, half point PPR, tight end premium, super flex. That's why we have all the different rankings over at fantasyguru.com to help you address all the differences there. Tyler Beaker, you can follow him on Twitter X at Tyler Beaker, Buecher. Before we let you go, Tyler, we have a comment here from Chris F., who said, Spider Ray and Hayden Hurst with all the info. Yes, I have my Venom shirt on for those people that can't see it. And, you got redhead, got the beard. You probably heard the Hayden Hurst thing a bunch of times. Are you tired of it? Do you like it? What are your thoughts, Tyler?
No, I love it. In our Discord, there are often some photoshopped images of my face on Hayden Hurst. I'll take the athletic body for sure. Well, I appreciate the compliments.
I thought they put his face on your body. That's what I saw. Yeah, on Sundays. That's what I thought I was seeing. But yeah, okay. I just get your bald. I don't get the cool. You look like Hayden Hurst. So I prefer to be on your side of things there, Tyler. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it. Again, Tyler's work over at fantasyguru.com. He's always in Discord. He's frequently on the live stream, which is 7 o'clock Eastern on Tuesdays, cranking out articles at the website. You kind of went through it at the start here, but as we're heading out, Tyler, what are you working on that's soon to be released for the draft guide for 2024?
Yeah, continuing to add to our best ball guide, which makes our website at Fantasy Guru one that really stands out in terms of a draft guide that's softly launched, and then we continue to add more and more content as the offseason progresses. This Friday, I'll have an article on drafters and their best ball tournament, looking specifically at teams to stack, teams that stand out in terms of whether you're drafting with an early selection, like rounds with a pick 1 through 3, or if you're randomly put in the middle, like 4 through 6, 7 through 9, or if you have a late round selection, 10 through 12. How your draft spot dictates which kind of stacks kind of line up in terms of ADP, where you don't have to reach too far to try to add that correlation, which is everything. Stacking is table stakes right now in best ball. If you're not stacking, you are not giving yourself a shot at winning these huge payouts. 48 out of 50 teams, each of the last 2 seasons, have had at least one pass catcher tied to one of their quarterbacks. Stacking or pairing, bare minimum, just do it. Just do it. So I'll have some stacks to target at ADP, whether depending on your draft slot, some middle rounds, like maybe you get sniped on one of your quarterbacks and you can't pair up that like rounds 1, round 2 selection. How do you pivot as the draft unfolds? Some middle round stacks you can target, some late round stacks you can target. That should be up on Friday around 4 p.m. Eastern.
That's Tyler Beaker, who's obviously Mr. Best Ball and also Mr. Football, and AKA Hayden Hurst. We'll just throw it all in there. Thanks for joining us today, Tyler. We'll talk to you in a week again next Thursday. Appreciate all the time today, and have a great weekend when it gets here.
You too. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. That's Tyler Beaker with the Flamingo hat, which I love. Thanks for joining us today, Tyler. All right, before I let you all go, let's hit back to baseball real quick there to discuss the injured players before I hit your questions up. Just quickly here with this situation, we'll go through the names there on the board. Kyle Bradish, you've all heard. They tried. It didn't work. His arm finally kaplued. He had Tommy John surgery already. So there it is. He's out for the rest of this season. He'll miss the first half of next year and hopefully be back to being himself in the second half next year. Dean Kremer, who's out with the triceps issue, is going to make a minor league rehab start on Saturday. If that goes well, very likely he's back in the rotation, basically taking the spot of Kyle Bradish starting next week. Cade Povich probably gets a little bit more run now in the rotation because of the way things are. Unclear if the Orioles end up trading one of their young guys for an arm. I think that's probable at this point. We'll see how it plays out. They'll obviously need to get Dean Kremer back and healthy because Kyle Bradish is done for the season. Walker Buehler, who we mentioned earlier, has been placed on the injury list. We talked about this yesterday. Whether he was hurt or not, this seemed like a possibility. Don't know how serious this situation is after taking the ball off his leg. Assumption being that he got blitzed against Colorado. He hasn't pitched well. They wanted to give him some time. Kind of assuming he's back in 2 weeks at this point in time, and then the Dodgers will have to decide how they're going to handle things. Bobby Miller is back, as we discussed earlier in the show. He'll step into the spot of Walker Buehler in the rotation for now. We'll readdress in a couple of weeks what they're going to do. And then finally, Clayton Kershaw, who looked good last night, coming back from the shoulder issue. I think it was his first surgery this offseason. 3 innings at high A ball. He threw 36 pitches, 26 of them were strikes. He hit 90 miles an hour with his fastball, which is basically where he sits at this point of his career. He surrendered 1 run on 2 hits and a walk, had 5 strikeouts, though. He'll probably make, I don't know, a handful more starts. Right around the All-Star break is probably when we see him. Maybe it's right like the first turn through the rotation after the break, something like that. Maybe he'll sneak in a start before the All-Star break. But he's trending toward a return, and as we always say, never bet against Clayton Kershaw. Greatness is greatness, and despite the fact he's not what he once was, he is still damn effective when out on that hill. All right, a few comments before we take off here for Thursday, and I get to writing a Rays Ramblings piece over at fantasyguru.com. Again, you can always ask your questions in the Discord over at the site. Brandon A says, good morning, family. And Ray, hello. Brandon, thanks for joining us. Let's go. It's Friday, people. And then P.S. Ray, every day is Friday. I wish every day was Friday. I don't consider getting up at 5 in the morning to be Friday. That's me. I'm looking forward to Friday. I'm actually looking forward to Saturday. I'm going to Bark and Brew on the weekend, which is an event for the local Humane Society. So you buy a ticket, the money gets donated to the Humane Society. We'll take our dog there, and it's a Bark and Brew. So basically you get like 2 hours of drinking for free. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be my Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that. Angelo says, yo, Angelo. Doug M says, again, late to the party. Don't worry about it, Doug. We're always happy to have you here. You can always watch the show late. You know, Fantasy Sports Daily in your podcast network. Find it on the website, fantasyguru.com, Elite Plus at the top of the page, facebook.com/fantasy guru HQ, youtube.com/Elite Plus Network. You can find it all over the place. Brandon A says, hell yeah, Ray, take a day off. I deserve it. I do deserve it, Brandon. I need you to be my agent. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Jason S. Bark and Brew events are always a good time. I will. Yeah, they're tons of fun. We went last year for the first time. I got my t-shirt, so I'll be wearing that again this week. We got our dog, Ollie, who's an Australian Shepherd, at Ollie Aussie Dog on Instagram. We got him a bandana. My lady made him an actual bandana with beer bottles on it. So he's ready. He's ready to go to rock and roll for the event. And then finally, Chaka the Furball says, hey, Ray, Roto Draft League has a speculative ad, Noelvi Marte or James Wood. I have lots of positional flexibility, so position is not an issue. Great question. Marte is going to be up in the big leagues before Wood. Wood is just coming back from an injury down on the farm. We all expect to see Wood at some point in the second half. We expect. Now, again, you know how this goes. I think we see him up with the Nationals. They got nothing to play for. There's no reason not to get him up. He is a potentially dynamic player right off the hop. Noelvi Marte is likely to return from his PED suspension and go immediately into the starting lineup. So we're going to get a longer run out of him. It might be 2 weeks more. It might be 2 months more. It might be significant. We don't know when James Wood is going to be promoted. I think I have lots of positional flexibility. That's tough because I really would like to answer this question with, do you need the infielder or the outfielder? I really would like to answer it that way because I can't, because that's not what I'm being asked. I'm going to say James Wood, but I don't feel good about it. I really don't feel good about it. I think we can answer it this way too. Do we need production in July or not? Because Marte should play every day. And Marte, let's not forget, I believe he was in my top 5 or 6 when the season began in terms of Rookie of the Year candidates. Like, he's a really talented guy who's going to be in a good lineup, who's going to be in a good ballpark to hit. You know what? I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go Marte. I'm going to hold back on Wood. I just don't know when he's going to get called up. Despite the greatness we have seen from him, there is some concern, with his size, with his strike zone when he gets promoted to the big leagues, all of that. I'll go Noelvi Marte. I'm going to change my mind. Again, as you can tell here, I really would like to answer this question based upon whether it's a keeper league or what your positional needs is. but great question, Chaka. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening today. Really appreciate your time. Tell a friend about the show. Live here again, we're changing it on July 1st, moving it back to 12 noon Eastern time in the morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time. That starts July 1st. Until then, we're going to rock and roll at 11 a.m. Monday through Friday here on the show. The Elite Sports Game Time Show. The rest of this week and next week, that's Monday through Thursday from 8 to 10 Eastern. And that show then ends next week. I'll be on the Elite Sports Show from 3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Wednesday next week, as Jeff Mans takes a little vacation. I'm Ray Flowers. I'm off to write a Ray's Rambling Pizza to answer your questions over in the Discord at fantasyguru.com. Thanks for your time today. You've been watching and hopefully learning something with us here at Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.